It's time for the Arizona Wildcats to head to the Octagon of Doom in Manhattan, Kansas, and try to go first streak with the Kansas State Wildcats. Me and Damon are going to break it all down on the AZ Wildcats podcast in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the AZ Wildcats Podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall, and I'm with my guy, Kevin Thomas, as always, on the ones and twos, chiming in, doing it all, Kevin. Utility man back there.
Hosting parties, making
parties,
food.
And that's exactly where I was going to go. Honestly, I wish you let me get there first, because now it feels a little,
Sorry, man.
A little pat on your own back.
It does.
Sort of thing, but honestly, my guy Kevin deserves it. Kevin threw a little Super Bowl bash last night. You know, kept it nice and tight, family only. Kevin,
something like that, something similar. It was kind of thrown together, kind of 2 days before ish.
Yeah.
But it went really well. It was my first time hosting something. Had some ribs to represent KC. Had some Philly cheesesteaks to represent Philly. Had some mac and cheese just for the people, for everybody. Who doesn't like mac and cheese? If you don't like mac and cheese, something's wrong with you in the head. But it was a good time. Girlfriend made some beautiful sweet desserts for some sweet bites, and it was a good time.
It was a great time, Kevin. And I will say that I was looking for something to rib Kevin on today. I mean, there was a point in our Super Bowl party where we were playing the grid game, the famous grid game. You know, you get the ending number of the score, and for both teams. Kevin wins the first quarter, and I start accusing him of being rigged. Kevin's doing the whole house always wins thing. I mean, and then I ended up winning the second quarter.
Yeah. I think everyone won. Didn't Noah win the last quarter though?
Noah did win the last quarter. Producer of PHNX Suns. Everybody got a little share of the pie there. I almost won the third and the fourth quarter, Kevin. The last scores took away my winning score if they had not scored in those moments, but it was still a good time. Made some money, and my guy Kevin, as I said, for being 23 years old, Kevin, that was pretty impressive. I will say that was like Noah and I walked out, and Noah goes, "I don't think that I'll have the capacity to do anything like that until I'm at least 40 years old."
Dude, I had the ribs on the grill.
Mm-hmm.
I had onions and bell peppers cooking up on the stove. So I was doing like the cartoon, just running up and down, just running back and forth.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Everything got done like 10 minutes before most people showed up. So good timing, and it went
really
well.
What it did is it saved the game, which was an atrocity. Because
that's a fact.
If I wasn't at a Super Bowl party with good food and good vibes, I would have been pretty sick to my stomach, Kevin.
If I wasn't hosting and I had to like genuinely just pay attention to the game the entire time, man, that would have been a tough one, because that game was buns. That game was kind of buns. Not gonna lie. The outcome was good though. The Chiefs losing, I think, is a benevolent outcome to some extent. And I was betting on the Chiefs. I was betting on the Chiefs, but I'm saying I think it's ultimately benevolent that they won. Or lost, I mean. Big
Dom is a Super Bowl champion today on a Victory Monday. And that's all I can think about. It kept me up last night. Tough.
Jalen Hurts' chain, I think I saw this on Twitter. Jalen Hurts' chain on whatever his next press conference is going to set rappers back 30 years. Like that is going to be the most blingiest, most shiniest chain I've ever seen in my life, and I cannot wait for it. Did you see Saquon Barkley had the Mamba logo diamond earrings? Those were very cool. The Kobe Bryant logo with the little whatever you want to call it. But yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
he didn't do nothing in the game. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you told people before the game that Saquon was going to have what is it?
Well, if you told people before the game that a birthday boy was going to score and it wasn't Saquon, but rather Cooper DeJean, I think everyone would have flipped out.
That'd been crazy. But yeah, 25 attempts for 57 yards, 2.3 yards per carry, 6 reception yards. If you told me those were Saquon's stats before the game, I would have told you Chiefs blowout.
Yeah.
I would have told you Chiefs won by 30. And Saquon, I mean, he just got bottled up, man. That was crazy. But
it was. But I mean, I guess, you know, when other things are working, I was about to say, when other things are working at the level that they were, I mean, you don't really necessarily need them to have that kind of game.
Yeah, they were the best football team in the league this year. They really were. You know, I think they had some injuries in a few of their losses, and it was like significant injuries. Like Devontae Smith wasn't there for the Bucks game that they lost and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure that the like only game that they lost while they were like really healthy for much of the season was that Falcons game in like week 3 where the Falcons came back on them. So yeah, I mean, Eagles deserve champions, but Big Dom, not a deserved champion. Just sick to my stomach over here, Kevin.
Well, hopefully you can get better sleep tonight, Damon, because Arizona.
I know that one's gonna stick with me for a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
When I see him at Combine in Indianapolis, when we're at Prime, the bar, just together in the same bar, and he's walking around, and he's the celeb of the show, and everybody's patting Big Dom on the back. This is Dom. Show us your ring, bro. I'm gonna be in the corner of the bar, just projectile vomiting all over the place, Kevin.
I feel bad because it really is like a souped-up security guard being made very popular.
For assaulting a 49ers player on the football field. This is where
kind of an insane thing to be famous
genesis
for, right?
of Big Dom being a celebrity. He was always working in the Eagles, you know, security department. But
I don't feel as strongly about the Big Dom situation as you do, right? But even if I was at a bar and I recognized Big Dom, I don't think I'd be like necessarily dying to go say what's up to the Eagles security guard. Like with all due respect to him, obviously.
He's a celebrity, man. You should be around these NFL events. People like
I know he is, but I'm saying it doesn't resonate with me. Like I don't get why people are like so obsessed with Big Dom. Like I don't get it.
Listen, you're preaching to the goddamn choir right here. Like I'm the one that's leading the charge. I'm George Washington on the crossing
you're
the
LeBron
Delaware.
James. Yeah, you're LeBron James on the Olympic ship with the flag, just holding it, doing the waving thing.
100%. I'm carrying the torch in for Team USA. But yeah, I'll carry the flag. But yeah, let's get into some Arizona athletics here,
Let's
Kevin,
do it.
because
Let's do it.
I think it was a good little Super Bowl recap, and just kind of
Party
where everybody's
good,
at.
game bad, and Big Dom also bad. That's pretty much your summary. Saquon, non-existent. Pat Mahomes probably played the worst game of his life, and I think that's the summary of the entire game.
Like 24 yards and at halftime.
Without those last 2 drives, like we're looking at what were his stats? All-time bad.
Yeah,
like, it was really
all-time bad. Just like quarterback performance in a Super Bowl, not just for him. That's crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy to think about.
I was listening to the Podfather Bill Simmons this morning, and he was asking the question of has there ever been like an all-time great player in their prime in a championship series or setting that played that poorly? Like in their prime, not early, not late, in the middle of their run, in the middle of the peak of their powers. Has there ever been like an all-time great that has just wet the bed like that?
You wouldn't call LeBron 2011 against the Mavs very similar? I would. As a Heat fan.
Was it that bad? Like it was
pretty atrocious. Though? I mean, I think, the scale is it's a little different. I feel like it's easier to have a one-off bad game as a quarterback in a football game than it is to have a bad series for 6 games. I think it went where I think he averaged like 4 points per game in the fourth quarter of those 6 games.
Yikes.
And was like the leading scorer for the Heat in like one of them.
Yikes. I kind of forget how bad that series was, to be honest.
And like there were times where like, he was posting up JJ Barea and like passing out of it instead of taking him under the basket. Like it was like we were watching like a completely different player. He was choking in that series. I think that might be the most apt comparison.
It sounds like a great comparison. And the more I remember it and the more you kind of jog my memory on it, I'm like, you know what? I think that probably might be the most recent time, which you're still going back quite a while at this point, but it's, yeah.
What's even kind of also similar about that, Kevin, is you have, like when LeBron did that, I think people were thinking to themselves like, and this was the talking point, he'll never pass Jordan.
Yeah.
He'll never pass Jordan. And right after this game, that's the immediate narrative.
Goat talk dead.
Yeah, he'll
never gonna be back in the GOAT. It's impossible.
He'll never be able to pass Brady.
Yeah,
and it's just like, all right, well, it's still a little bit kind of early. I think we got to let it play out a little bit further.
Wasn't Brady 3-2 in his first 5?
Yes, he was. But I think that is a benefit to Brady in this talk, because Brady had the greatest end to a career in the history of the NFL. So if Mahomes is simply matching Brady, he has to then match the greatest end of career statistics.
And his guys are only getting older.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and Reed only getting older.
This was a big one.
It was a big one.
Being 4-1 with a 3-peat would have been huge for the GOAT talk.
Because you garner a lot of
that's why I'm
sad
about it, honestly.
That, right?
That is honestly why I'm sitting here being like, not everybody, when you're saying like that was a benevolent outcome and whatnot. Like, I'm trying to get Tom Brady out of these GOAT talks, bro. I got an ulterior motive at play here, and unfortunately, my narrative took a big hit last night.
Yeah, I wish I liked Pat Mahomes more, so I could root harder for him to be the GOAT. Because I'm kind of indifferent towards him being the GOAT. It'd be cool, but I don't think it's any necessarily cooler than Tom Brady being the GOAT. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely am more excited for Arizona's matchup with Kansas State than I am to talk about the game that was the Super Bowl. Because it's going to be a banger of a game tomorrow night, Damon. I think 6 o'clock is the tip-off, Arizona versus Kansas State. We're going to preview this throughout the entire episode. But, Damon, how excited are you for this game? It's a huge matchup. 2 of the longest win streaks in the conference, 2 of the hottest teams in the nation. How are we feeling?
Well, first, I actually want to talk about, if you would oblige, Kevin, I'd love to talk about Arizona's ranking in the latest top 25 poll.
We'd be remiss to not bring that
up.
Yeah, that's on me.
It was released about, 30, 40 minutes ago at this point. Arizona moves up 7 spots, Kevin, from number 20 to number 13. I believe you on the money projected 13 after our Saturday post-game show.
I think I did.
I believe I came out first. I said 14, and then I believe you followed that up with 13. So congrats, man.
I appreciate it. I worked hard for this W. I worked really hard. I thought really hard on that answer. Because at first I gave a range, Damon, and
you did, and I made you specify.
Yeah, you made me specify, and I just went with 13 because I thought it made the most sense. Because I would, screw it, we'll just take Texas Tech spot after beating Texas Tech. And it ended up being correct, Damon. They enter number 13. Mm-hmm. What are some of your thoughts on the teams kind of directly above and below Arizona in relation to, how they got ranked? Do you think they could have been higher?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think, obviously Arizona just beat Texas Tech. But so you could make the argument Arizona should be in front of them. But also, obviously having split with Tech on the year, I can see it both ways. I really do feel like, given the 2 games that Arizona and Tech have played against each other, Kevin, that those are fairly equal teams.
Very well matched for sure.
They were similar matchups in the way that one team was up about a handful of points the entire game until late, when they just kind of took the game over and broke it open. But yeah, I think particularly that stands out to me. I think Wisconsin at 16. I mean, we lost to Wisconsin, but that was a true road game, and Wisconsin shot 48 free throws or whatever in that game. I think Michigan State at 11. I don't think there's any world where Arizona's a worse team than Michigan State. I understand.
That's what I was just eyeing over here. I was eyeing that exact team.
I understand where they have a good record, and that someone in teams in the Big Ten are going to have to be in the rankings in some capacity. But the Big Ten is really not a very good conference.
It's pretty
right
mid,
now,
right? It's really mid.
It's mid every year. Let's be honest with that. The Big Ten basketball is the most overrated conference year in and year out. They typically underperform in the NCAA tournament. Outside of Tom Izzo, I'm not sure that they even have any positive performance in the NCAA tournament in recent years. But just looking at Big Ten standings right now, and of course it's giving me women's basketball. But you're looking at Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, UCLA as your top 5, and Arizona played Wisconsin, UCLA. Shouldn't have lost to either one of those teams, and I don't think Michigan's all that great either. So I think that's really two teams in the conference, and honestly, I'm not really scared of Purdue either. I don't know, Kevin. How do you feel about the Big Ten?
In terms of just the Big Ten, I want to start with, I think Arizona should be ranked higher than Michigan State. because of all the reasons we're talking about. If you look at Michigan State's resume, it's a lot of just good teams, right? Like North Carolina's having a bad year. Minnesota, Nebraska, Florida Atlantic, Ohio State, Penn State, Illinois. Illinois is pretty overrated, but
Illinois.
Yeah, pretty overrated.
Let's
team.
all laugh at Illinois for a second.
But yeah, no, I just feel as though like their schedule is pretty, or their resume is pretty inflated. And I feel like if Arizona and Michigan State were to go head to head, I think Arizona takes that by like 8 to 10. Like I think Arizona should be ranked higher than Michigan State. I don't fully understand why they're not, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think this ranking for Arizona is about obviously where I had them. I think if you're gonna have Texas Tech at number 12, I do get it, Damon, because they split, right? But let me look at Tech's schedule again, because when Arizona plays a team like Texas Tech, beats Texas Tech,
yep,
and their most recent game is a loss to Arizona, and then they move up a spot. Like I understand. I understand though that the games before that they beat Houston and Baylor, right? At Houston versus Baylor, but then
the Baylor game was before between these last votes, right?
Yeah.
The Houston game was not.
Yeah, that's true. I think it was the Baylor and Arizona game that they were judging off of, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like if they split, how could you move them up? Right? I feel like you either have to stay where they are, move them to 14, move Arizona to 13.
I'm fine with that line of thinking. Like, hey, the team should be flipped. But I actually will go the other way on this. I think that it's the right thing in terms of the Big 12 is a gauntlet of a conference, and we're really gonna like Arizona's not a bad loss.
It's not.
Losing at Arizona is not a bad loss at all. That's one of the better teams on your schedule. So like I don't think you should be like completely punished for that, because Michigan State loses to UCLA, who's unranked, and they only dropped 2 spots down from 9 to 11, and I don't think Michigan State is the 11th best team in the country.
Totally agree with that.
So like I think if I'm fine with it, because I just think that the Big 12 supremacy, bro. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I mean, I'm with it. Yeah.
But here's also another team, and I know I just said Big 12 supremacy, but I'm going to go against that for a second. Iowa State has lost 3 of their last 4 games.
Yeah.
They beat TCU. And like I understand that they moved down 2 spots, but like they lost 3 of their last 4, and they've only moved from 3 to 10. That's crazy, Kevin. Is that not kind of insane?
It is crazy, because the inverse happens to teams like Arizona, right? Teams like Arizona that maybe lose a couple in the early non-conference that they're not supposed to are punished for like literally months after that.
That's what I'm saying.
Trying to get back into it.
Yeah.
But if you start here and you garner the leeway and the extra slack, you can lose a couple games in conference against good teams.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I think they're still good. Let's keep them about right here. And it's tough, because Arizona, we've been on the other side of it as fans, right? Of like I just said, having to feel like the resume is already built, but we're not getting rewarded for it. Meanwhile, teams like Iowa State, Michigan State can keep having these blunders and not seemingly be punished for it. So we'll see where the rankings shake out. But
like apparently, if you just play a cupcake non-conference schedule
Exactly.
and go undefeated, then you can you can lose like 4 conference games in a row because you're 17-4.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't. I think Arizona's conference record is much more like telling of what the team is and who the team is moving forward than like who would you rather be right now, Iowa State or Arizona? I guess that's the question.
I mean, who would I rather be right now? It's Arizona, right? I mean, like
obviously
momentum,
we needed
the vibes are all in Arizona's direction. I think if you asked me before the Arizona game, I probably would have said Iowa State. Because I think even if they going into that game, I thought even if they lost to Arizona, they would still be able to garner momentum and continue that going forward throughout the rest of conference play. But clearly that trip to the desert had them messed up, and they can't seem to shake back. So it's
I mean, like I don't want to like lose my mind. I mean, it took a miracle buzzer beating 3 to even take it to OT to beat them, but like. Yeah, I mean they lose to Arizona, and again, that's like one of the better losses you're going to have all season, an OT loss to Arizona at Arizona. But then they get killed by Kansas State by 19 points, and they get killed by Kansas by 17 points. So it's like they're not. I mean, they're it almost like they're just completely changed as a team right now. And yeah, I mean they're in front of Arizona. They have a better record than Arizona, but I think I think the Cats are in a better spot than Iowa State is. If you ask me today, temperature check. I don't know. Something to monitor moving forward.
Get a little checkup at the doctors. But yeah, Damon, I want to talk a little bit more. I have a stat to show you after we talk about some fine sponsors on this show. And the stat could indicate that Arizona is going to win the national title. So just bear with us. Don't go anywhere, folks. Well, Damon, one thing that was missing from my beautiful Super Bowl party yesterday was some Spinato's pizza. I didn't have any Spinato's pizza. And I think, you didn't want to really dunk on me or say anything too bad to start the show, and you wanted to be complimentary.
Yeah, but it would have been next level.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But you should have led with, Kevin, your party was great, but where were the Spinatos at? Because Spinatos is the place to be, especially if you're a Suns fan. They have watch parties with the Phoenix Suns dancers and the Gorilla. So you got to stop by for your chance at free Suns tickets. But not only your chance at free Suns tickets, free pizza for a year. That is right. And if you have a decent jump shot, you got to enter their pizza competition, which is pretty much horse. But instead of spelling horse, you're spelling pizza. And you can, like I said, win free pizza for a year and tickets to the Suns game on April 9th. So what's better than free tickets and free pizza? Maybe my Super Bowl party. Feel the energy, cheer for your team, and win big. Don't miss the chance to be part of the action. Get all the info on watch parties and pizza basketball contests at SpinatosPizzeria.com. That's Spinatos, the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns.
Man, Spinatos sounds good right about now. I would love to drive over to a Spinatos, to that beautiful Spinatos location in a brand new Sanderson Ford, Kevin. If you're looking to get into a new vehicle in 2025, Sanderson Ford is the way to go because they have all the options: the Bronco, the F-150, the Fiesta, the Focus, the Mustang SUV, EV. I mean, they got it all over at Sanderson Ford. All those beautiful Ford vehicles, American-made vehicles as well. And yeah, I mean, I want to get myself in one of those Broncos, Kevin. You always like the Badlands.
Yeah, the Badlands.
That name is just
fire as hell. I feel like I'm about to go through the vast empty desert and just like find anything I need to do.
Let me just say that, like, putting to the side, Bronco Badlands, unbelievable looking car, beautiful looking car. But it could almost look like anything with a name like that, and you'd feel like badass driving.
I would drive a golf cart that was called the Badlands.
100%.
I don't care.
Around town, and I'd be like, it's called the Bronco Badlands.
As long as Sanderson Ford is selling it and it's called the Badlands, I don't care. I'll sit in it and I'll whip it around. I don't care.
There's no doubt about that. So yeah, if you're looking to get into a new car in 2025, do it in style with our friends at Sanderson Ford. For the best deals in 2025, choose Sanderson for a no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense experience, and get more for your trade with easy on the spot financing. Drive into the new year with a new Ford from Arizona's most awarded Ford dealership. That's Sanderson Ford. I was thinking about today. Have you ever heard Bo do his Sanderson Ford song?
I probably should say yes, but I haven't.
It's like that. It's like their old theme song, and they still play it on their commercials from time to time. But it's wonderful. I mean, we got to get him on set one of these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's around here somewhere. So maybe if we just talk loud enough, he'll hear us and come into the set. But
he's doing his own thing. But yeah, Kevin. So we are going to get into a little bit more of a Kansas State preview and kind of just what you need to know about the Kansas State Wildcats. And you know what.
I do want to, but real quick, I have a quick statistic I want to show everyone that I saw on Twitter today.
Let's do it.
And it's one of those situations where, temporarily throughout the season, this account will update people on which teams are on pace to win the national title based on statistical similarities between all other national title winning teams, right? So this is where Arizona currently sits among all those teams. 96% of national champions since 2001 have had a top 21 KenPom offense pre-tournament. 91% of national champions since 01 have had a top 31 KenPom defense pre-tournament. And currently, these are the 9 teams that occupy that criteria, as you see Arizona being there in the bottom left. Obviously, this is not like a cemented, like, you're destined for the Final Four if you make these kind of statistics. But it is kind of an interesting thing that, yes, Arizona, has been struggling at times this season, but they're still loved by the statistics, and they're still developing and getting to a place where they're going to compete with some of the best teams in the nation in the tournament time when it matters most.
Yeah, that is an interesting graphic there. Just looking at it, I mean, we're talking crap on the Big Ten, but they got 3 teams on this 9-team shortlist right there that I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for sure. Like, you always want to be involved in all of those things, like the magic number KenPom type graphics. because there's a reason 96 and 91% of teams fall into those categories.
Yeah.
It's because those are the best teams in the country that have the best shot of stringing together, 6 wins on the way to a national championship. But yeah, I mean, Arizona's metrics look good, man. Like we're talking about the rankings, Kevin. If you look at KenPom, which, I think is a little bit more, it takes more into account than like a lot of these voters do when, we've discussed this before, Kevin, like these voters aren't really watching every Arizona basketball game, especially not 8:30 tip-off games on the West Coast, which are Central Time 9:30 tip-offs and East Coast time 10:30 tip-offs. It's like there's no chance they're watching those games. So a 14-point loss against Texas Tech it matters. It means way more than a 4-point loss to Texas Tech at the end of the day. KenPom is like factoring in that kind of stuff a little bit more, and Arizona's 10th ranked team in KenPom. So I think that's a little bit more of like Arizona's a top 10 team in the country. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I think we've been trending in that direction, but they've really been a top 25 team the whole time. Yeah. Rough start, and then I think they've been top 20 team for much of the season now, and now they've been good enough to get in the top 10.
Yeah, you know what, Damon? I would love to talk about this a little further, but I have some breaking news. I do have some breaking news that we didn't talk about at the top of the show with the ranking situation. But our guy, our tenacious beast in the paint, Tobe Awaka, has won Big 12 Newcomer of the Week, which is, very well deserved. Damon, I'm very excited for Tobe, so I just wanted to quickly mention that. Since we mentioned that Arizona got ranked as well, might as well mention Tobe getting that Newcomer of the Week.
That's beast, man. I'm gonna do this right here live on air. I'm ball knowledge carding Bo Brock. I need him to put it on the table. Because he
that was a crazy question.
Some smut on Tobe Awaka's name. He goes, that number 30, he should be dominating.
He goes, I think his exact sentence was, so hey, what's up with that number 30? Why isn't he doing better? And it's like, wait, you mean the guy that's been breaking out of his shell every game recently?
Big 12 Newcomer of the Week. Tobe Awaka. That's who you're speaking
of?
I
mean, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna just out Bo like that as a non-ball knower, but it's all good.
I didn't say non-ball knower. I just said I need to ball knowledge card him. Like I need him. It's like it's like getting carded at a bar. I need him to give it to me. I need to scan it up and down, front and back, look at it in the sunlight, maybe. Is there. Yeah. That's just where I'm at with it.
I like that. I do like that. But yeah, no, Tobe Awaka, anyone who does pay attention to the Big 12 knows that Tobe Awaka has been one of the biggest forces in the entire conference, right? I mean, not quite a player of the year candidate, but rebounder of the year for damn sure.
Yep.
And I think that him winning this Newcomer of the Week award kind of just goes to indicate what we've been talking about with Tobe Awaka all season, right? The development and the growth over time. From being a player, I keep saying it, but from being a player to where me and Damon are seeing him get entry passes and we're like, oh boy, don't drop another one, to being a player that you and I have full faith in to grab every rebound and not drop a single board on either end of the court. It's truly impressive, and congratulations to Tobe Awaka. I also wanted to real quick mention what you said before I interrupted you, that, Arizona's been a top 10 team since middle December. Right, I think Arizona's been one of the best teams in the country. Like you asked me earlier, who would you rather be, Iowa State or Arizona? And I think like if you ask that question of almost any team in the country, like without a select few, you're picking Arizona.
I mean Houston off dome.
Mm-hmm. Are you
Duke?
Would you rather be Arizona or Auburn?
Auburn.
Would you rather be Arizona or Florida?
Arizona.
Would you rather be Arizona or Purdue?
Arizona.
Right? We already asked about Iowa State. We already kind of talked about Texas Tech. Tennessee or
Arizona.
Duke, right? It's like it's
Duke. I'd rather be Duke, but here's my one concern about Duke, and this just popped in my head right now. Think about Pac-12 and the way Arizona dominated the Pac-12, especially under Tommy Lloyd, with little to no competition along the way, not getting battle tested whatsoever by good basketball teams throughout the course of the season. The ACC is atrocious. Kevin, it's atrocious. Like, how many tournament teams is the ACC going to get in? I'm going to do a quick
I don't know off the top of my head either. I'll just, while you do that, I do want to bring up the W's they have had in conference, right? Louisville, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, SMU, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Miami, BC, Wake Forest, NC State, North Carolina, and Syracuse, and they just lost to Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I'm looking here. Duke is 12-1 in the ACC. Clemson's 11-2. Louisville's 11-2. Wake Forest is 10-3. Those are the big dogs of the conference. Like
roof.
Clemson beat Duke. I was watching a little bit of that game. It was a home game for Clemson, and it was like you could tell it was like the Super Bowl. They rushed the court afterwards.
I mean, it was Dickie V's first game back.
Yeah.
Right?
So like, I mean, I think Clemson's a respectable team. They'll make the tournament. Whatnot. Like not saying anything against them, but I think Clemson would be the 7th, 8th best team in the Big 12. Kevin.
Yeah, I mean,
is Clemson's not better than Baylor? They're not better than Kansas.
No, there aren't many teams in the ACC that are better than a lot of the teams in the Big 12, right? Like if you want to do that classic conversation of how many players start for this team when they play that team, how many teams finish in the top 5 of the Big 12 in the ACC, right?
I mean, I think I could even go as far to say that like Cincinnati would have a chance.
Dude, Cincinnati's pretty decent. Like, remember what we've been saying about these teams when we started conference play about how, yeah, you might look at a team like a Cincinnati or a TCU to an extent.
No, like those teams aren't making the tournament, but they're decent teams.
And be like, yeah, no, they're just no good. And it's you have it all wrong, right? You're looking at it from the wrong perspective. It's all relative. It's all on a scale. And the Big 12 is just so shifted towards the top of the top that you have to be one of the best teams in the entire country to make it to the top of the Big 12, and you don't have to be the same in the ACC.
Like I genuinely think BYU, West Virginia, TCU, Cincinnati are competitive, very competitive teams in the ACC. Like top 5, like you said in the conference.
Yeah.
I don't know if you disagree with any of those, but like
no, I was
it does go to show the depth.
I was
Kansas State as well. I mean, Kansas State would be like dominating the Big 12 or the ACC.
And I think like part of what adds to our point here is that there's also parity in the ACC, which means that like a lot of these teams are just kind of like beating up on each other because there's no standouts. Kind of like what you're saying, right? The longest win streak in the conference is 4 games, and it's SMU.
Here's all you need to know, Kevin. I just saw this right now. This is stamp. It's done. Stanford's 8-5. Stanford was scraping the bottom of the barrel for the Pac-12 for how long now, Kevin?
Yo,
how long now?
So long, Damon.
Dude,
so incredibly long.
They got 200 people in the stands in Palo Alto at like a Stanford Arizona basketball game because they're that bad. And Stanford is like they're like fighting for a tournament bid in the ACC. They're currently in 6th place. Like a game out of 4th, or a game out of 5th. I don't know.
If we were really breaking this down, I would love to see the the two conferences with their KenPom rankings compared, right? And see like the worst teams in the ACC versus the worst teams in the Big 12.
I just looked up Stanford right now as you were saying that.
They're 86.
Right before you said that, they're 86.
Yeah.
And they're in 6th place in the ACC out of 14 teams?
Yeah.
Crazy, dude.
It's nuts.
Like Kansas State's in 7th and they're like 50 something, aren't they? And they had a disaster start to the season.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it. Miami, it looks like
Miami's bad,
is the worst team in the ACC right now. They're 186th in KenPom right now, Damon. Mm-hmm. And let me real quick try to find this number for us so I can get my official comparison here. Because if I go to Duke and we find the Arizona game, I can reverse engineer it. You know what I mean? This
Colorado
is great podcasting right
106, and they're in last place in the Big
Arizona
12.
State's in second to last place, brother, and they're 62nd.
I know.
And we know how we feel about that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But they'd be real highly competitive in the ACC.
That's
what
I'm saying. Yeah. Oklahoma State, they're 101st. Okay, I get that. I do get Oklahoma State's not very good. But, like it's pretty much what? Oklahoma State and Colorado?
Yeah, it's a garbage conference, man. It really is.
It is. The ACC is very overrated. I'm with you on that. But
I don't think it's even overrated. I think everyone knows it's the worst this year. It's really bad.
I feel like I still feel like people look at the ACC because like Duke and North Carolina. And
but even North Carolina's like
I know,
like smells out loud bad.
They're stinky.
You know what I mean?
They're real stinky.
Yeah. So like I think Duke is like super good, and I think that they'll get too much hype because their record is going to be so insane the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But like the ACC is I think everyone knows how big of a disaster it is. Like only like Dickie V's going to tell you that the ACC is like the best conference in America.
This conference is the best conference.
Yeah.
Damon, we're talking a lot about this overrated ACC. We gotta be talking about the underrated Kansas City, or not Kansas City. Dang,
Kansas
that's
City
too much
Chiefs?
Super Bowl. Too much Super Bowl. Kansas State Wildcats. We can do that real quick though, right on the other side of this break, y'all. Don't go anywhere. Well, Damon, I'm excited to talk about Kansas State, but I can't get too excited because if I do, my self-hygiene might slip. You know what I'm saying? If I start sweating and getting all stinky over here, I'm going to need some Mando. Because I'm fresh head to toe these days, Damon. And I do that because of Mando. Now, Valentine's Day is quickly approaching. Too quickly approaching, actually, if you ask me. But one thing that I am not going to be sleeping on is my personal hygiene. And thanks to Mando, I'll be able to do that. This company is amazing because their starter pack is so affordable. And what we're going to do for you, right, is give you 40% off that initial starter pack with $5 off with our exclusive code of PHNX. Now, Mando is a whole body deodorant, Damon. You know what that means? You can put it anywhere on the outside of your body. You can put it on your chest, your armpits, your butt crack. You can put it under your balls. You can do it literally anywhere that you need Mando.
Give me one more.
Neck rolls. You know what I'm saying? If you got some behind the ear, if you got, you know what I'm saying? Where else could you put? Oh, in the back of the knee. In the back of the knee. Man, it gets sweaty back there sometimes. You gotta get right. But with Mando,
you didn't even say grundle.
I didn't say grundle. I was purposely avoiding the word grundle. But yeah, you can put it on your grundle as well. But with Mando starter pack, it's perfect for new customers. Comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Like I said, we have a special offer. New customers get $5 off their starter pack with our exclusive code PHNX. That's 40% off that starter pack. Shop Mando.com, SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you over there to get right.
Shop some Mando. Get that cheap little starter pack with our promo code there. And if you want another promo code that's going to help you save some money, do it with our friends over at Branded Bills. I was wearing my Branded Bills hat on our Saturday postgame show. Go check that video out. If you want to go see the most beautiful cactus logo Branded Bills hat, comfy as hell, Kevin. Cactus dominance with the cactus logo. That was Saturday's vibe.
Supremacy.
Yeah, that was Saturday's vibe for sure. And do it with our friends over at Branded Bills. They got all the logos going over there. They got the Cats script that we had on the helmet, the new helmets this year.
So fire.
Which was super fire. They got, of course, Block A, some Wilbur stuff. They got the campus collection down in Tucson at the bookstore. Kevin, you were down there. You showed a picture to us.
Finds.
They really do. They don't even sell those. Like we showed it to the Branded Bills people, and they were like, "Oh, I don't even." Like, I haven't even really seen that. Like, that's how rare these Arizona bookstore finds are. And make sure they're the hottest hats on the campus in Tucson. Like, whenever I go down, whenever I'm walking around, I always see Branded Bills hats everywhere. Saw a bunch in New Orleans, Kevin. We're going nationwide nowadays. Branded Bills, it's just the best hat in the business. So if you want to upgrade your brand, you want to get something for your softball team, law firm, something like that, head on over to brandedbills.com and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
I love that you think I got a law firm going on, Damon. I love that you think so highly of me.
I do.
You're like, hey, when you got that law firm that pops off and you need some hats for your lawyers.
I really do think highly of you.
Well, I appreciate it, Damon. I think highly of Kansas State basketball this year. Not too highly, though. But I do think that they're very underrated. You know what I'm saying? You and I are about to talk about it. Should we start with the team preview? My guy, Damon Dog.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's look at Kansas State's team
This one's right,
preview.
by the way.
This is correct. My guy, Damon, killing it.
Did you check me?
I didn't have to.
You didn't, but you didn't even did it cross your mind of maybe
it did cross my mind.
Maybe let's give this one a quick little double check just because my guy Damon is back in town.
It crossed my mind, but I had been doing my research earlier and I remembered the 6-6, and I was like, well, okay, he's got it this time. But you went back to you got a little vacation, went off, got right, and came back.
Let me ask you this: was your preview graphic that you did was it correct?
Yeah, I mean,
fully, no mistakes.
I mean, it should have been. I mean, no one told me otherwise. I thought I had it fully correct. But let's look at this Kansas State Wildcats graphic. 12-11 record, 6-6 in conference, 114.5 offensive ratings, good for 64th in the nation. Defensive rating of 100.9, that's 66th. Tempo 66.9 for 196 in the nation, and the 27th best strength of schedule in the country. That's that Big 12 basketball putting in some work for you right there for EMAW over there. But Damon, I want to start by just kind of putting into perspective the season that Kansas State is having, right? This is a team
that's the way to go
that fell into the NJIT last year, right? The Invitational Tournament after a disappointing season under Jerome Tang. After 2018 that they went to that final? They went to the deep run in the tournament there. So it's kind of been downhill since. This year they start horrible in conference play, 1-6 to start conference play, but they're above 500 for the first time since early January because of a current win streak that came after 6 straight losses. On that win streak, they have wins over ranked West Virginia, Oklahoma State in the conference, ranked Iowa State, huge victory, Arizona State, and then they beat Kansas very recently at home. I also wanted to mention that we're going to have a little bit of Coleman Hawkins talk. Me and Damon are going to go back and forth a little bit on Coleman Hawkins, but I wanted to mention, you'll love this. You'll appreciate Coleman Hawkins for this. Coleman Hawkins, after that victory against Kansas, has moved to 6-1 against Hunter Dickinson, including one exhibition game that he won that too.
That is kind of fire.
It's kind of fire, and I don't know if you saw the video that was going around on social media of Coleman Hawkins realizing that he's 6-1 over Hunter Dickinson. They asked him like, "Hey, you've matched up with him a bunch of times."
Just 28 years old, still in college, going strong.
Just 2 multimillionaires just cashing in. But yeah, he kind of looked back. He was like, "Oh, carry the one. 6-1. Okay, he's a good player, but he's a good player. But it's nice to get the best of him. Here's kind of one of those.
Here's where I'll push back on it because I do like it Kansas State versus Kansas perspective. I'm happy about that W for Kansas State. That means Illinois beat Michigan as well, which I don't know that I am super happy about because Illinois is despicable.
I'll let you have it, Damon. I'll let you have that. You can live your best life with that. Excuse me. But I also want to mention that technically per some Torvik, I believe is the analytics. I have it here. Kansas State's actually the best team in basketball, Damon. Since January 19th, the Wildcats of Kansas State are ranked number 1 in Torvik's adjusted efficiency power rating over the last 20 days with a 5-1 record. This team is underrated to me. I'm not saying that they should come out and give Arizona the hardest game they've had all year, but I think a lot of people look at this game as like, oh, they should just handle Kansas State. They're going to go in there and, Kansas State's not one of the better teams in the conference. Arizona is. Momentum going one way, for one team, and then you look over at the other side and you're like, oh, wait, Kansas State might actually be hotter than Arizona right now. It's a crazy thought to think, Damon. Do you think, I'll ask you this before I get into the rest of the breakdown I got going on here, but do you think that we're, as a fan base, underrating Kansas State? Do you think that the analytics are real? Do you think the wheels are going to fall off the bandwagon here tomorrow night? What do you think about the Kansas State Wildcats?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, when we've been talking about the schedule and whatnot going through for a while, I've had this one circled as a game that you had to watch out for a minute here. I think earlier portions of the season when they were, on that 1-6 start to their conference record, I think even sorry if I'm just like I'm not trying to cook you right now, but I think even you were kind of a little dismissive of that team, and just kind of the environment that it's also going to be there in Manhattan because Kansas State is a tough place to play. They have very passionate fans, and yeah, I mean it's never easy to go into that environment on the road and get the W. So I was always a little bit apprehensive about that in particular, but yeah, I mean, now that they've put some of these wins together, I think that they're kind of in a place where we would have projected Kansas State to be at the beginning of the season. I don't have the Big 12 preseason poll in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that they were somewhere around projected 6th or 7th in the Big 12. So it's kind of it's been positive regression, right? You weren't going to it's similar to Arizona's non-conference where every close game they lost throughout the entire non-conference schedule. That's not going to happen for the entire rest of the season. It's going to regress to the mean, and Arizona's won a lot of their close games recently. I would think I don't have stats in front of me, but it does feel like those close games are definitely going in Arizona's favor on this start to Big 12 conference play. So yeah, I mean, I think Kansas State is definitely a team that you got to take seriously. I think that they're clearly, they're playing really good basketball right now. You're playing them at a tough time in their schedule, but they're certainly beatable.
Oh, definitely.
And you're gonna. I think this is kind of where we're headed in our breakdown, but and maybe we'll get to it after the other side of this break here. But Coleman Hawkins is a player that Kansas State needs to be efficient I believe, if they're going to want to have a shot at beating Arizona in this game. And he's not always the most efficient player in the world, Kevin.
He is not.
There's a pathway to stopping him, and I do think that pathway is a pathway to an Arizona dub. But yeah, well, like I said, we'll get into that on the other side of this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Well, Damon, one thing that I was partaking in yesterday at the Super Bowl function was some Colt cannabis. It was a good time. We needed some Colt cannabis for that, sleeper of a game, though. I'm not going to lie. I did get my Colt cannabis from our friends over at True Leaf as well. I just want to make sure that everyone goes and checks out the Maricopa location that opened, a month ago tomorrow. Actually, Damon, a month ago tomorrow, the new True Leaf in Maricopa will have opened and been operational for business. So feel free to browse either their in-store selection or go online to trueleaf.com and check them out there as well. And I also want to make sure that everyone knows that magic marker strain that Colt Cannabis has been killing it with, their lemon dairy, they have all types of fire strains. Rainbow Inferno, I believe, is also another one of those that they have over at Colt Cannabis. So make sure to go shopping for some great flower, because it's hard to find these days, with our friends over at Colt Cannabis. Check out trueleaf.com to find your local shop and place an order and tell them PHNX sent you.
And if you're looking to buy a home somewhere in the Valley, you know where to go. That's Carol Royce's team. But if you're also looking to sell your home, Kevin, you're going to go to the same place, because Carol Royce and her team, they've not only have they gotten 12,000 people into their new homes, but they also are a locally owned and operated business that will help you, find a great price to sell your home if you don't love it as well. So head on over to Carol's team and give them a call at 480-776-5231. Choosing the right agent, huge decision. We all know that. It's going to be one of the biggest decisions of your life because it's one of the biggest purchases of your life. So you're going to want a family-oriented, treats you very personal cell phone number exchange, type of just environment that makes you feel welcome and like you have the right person in charge of such a massive decision for you and your family. You can rest easy knowing that you're not just making the right choice, but you're making a guaranteed one, because your home sold for 100% of market value, or Carol is going to pay that difference on it, Kevin. There's not a better guarantee in all of selling of your home in all of the Valley. So if you're looking for a cash offer, why just settle for one? Carol Royce can bring you 6, 7, sometimes even 8, and pick the best one. Use as a standard, or if you're considering selling your home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Have questions? Call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com.
Shout out to our friends over at Carol Royce for helping us out with this episode. And Damon, Coleman Hawkins is going to have to help out the Kansas State Wildcats if they're going to get a dub over our Arizona Wildcats. And we don't want that to happen, but we got to talk about it, right? Coleman Hawkins, John Rothstein tweeted this morning, I believe. Coleman Hawkins, during Kansas State's 5-game winning streak, 13.2 points, 6.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. Honestly, really impressive numbers. I know Damon is going to talk about how he's not the most efficient player that ever played basketball, and that is true. That is true. But I think Coleman Hawkins is still a very dangerous player, because it doesn't, it's very different equations to get to the same spot. But it kind of this Kansas State team kind of reminds me of like a store brand version of Arizona. Does it not? Like a team that started the year rough. We didn't start conference play nearly as rough as they did. Our non-conference was rough.
Yeah.
But Arizona from the beginning of the season was projected higher than they were performing. Looked awful. People probably writing them off. And then now in mid-January, February, team playing its best ball, finding a way to win games that matter. And I think, Coleman Hawkins, we're talking about efficiency, but someone who any one game can get it going and win you a game. Who does that sound like, Damon? Sounds like Caleb Love to me. And I'm not saying they're at all similar players. I'm talking about a guard and a big man, right? But I'm just talking about the overall kind of pieces that fit into the puzzle for each team.
Yeah.
They each have a heat check guy. You know what I mean? They each have a guy that high value player that's kind of up and down, but can win you a game when it matters most. And so, yes, Coleman Hawkins is not the most efficient player. Yes, he does have his flaws, but I'm still worried about Coleman Hawkins taking Tobe Awaka out to the perimeter and doing something to him. I'm still worried about Coleman Hawkins finding his rhythm throughout the game and making it a much closer game than it needs to be, especially in a home environment in Kansas State. So I think, I know he's not your favorite, but I don't think he's someone we should look over as Arizona fans and just assume
that he's going to be mid. He could be really good tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think here's where I'm at with Coleman Hawkins. Like I think he's a high upside player, right? Because he's 6'10", he's lean, he's athletic, he has good coordination, he puts the ball on the floor, and like anytime you have a guy who's that tall, that lengthy, that can dribble and handle the ball and penetrate, kick out, like that is going to be extremely valuable for any basketball team. So I think he can do a lot. You know what I mean? Like he's a versatile player. He can kind of play small forward, even though he's 6'10", which at a college level, that's pretty impressive. Averages 4.7 assists per game, which is
tied for the lead on the team with Doug McDaniel, who also gets busy with the assists. So.
Yeah, and he's and Doug McDaniel's a guard, and Coleman Hawkins is a 6'10" power forward. So it does, like, I think that's impressive, and he brings that aspect to his game. Here's where I don't love Coleman Hawkins, and where, like, if he was on my team, I don't think I'd be the biggest fan of him. That being said, I'd trade our starting power forward for him, but that's a different discussion.
I was gonna bring that up today, but I decided to be I'll just let it be. But you brought it up, so we'll talk about that later.
I mean, he's a better rebounder and a better passer than Trey Townsend will ever be, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. But he only shoots 41% from the field. Part of that is he takes 4 3-point attempts per game. Not the best 3-point shooter. He shoots 33%, which is okay. It's a threat, but it's not like he's like a good 3-point shooter. Yeah, I mean, I think
he hit a 3 from damn near the logo when they played Kansas. So like you said, yes,
take that shot.
It's a threat. It is a threat.
If he hits that shot, you tip your cap.
You do. I'm not saying I'm not saying he's regular.
Good game, brother.
But I'm saying, I guess I'm just kind of emphasizing your point, right? That is a shot that maybe you're like, all right, kind of let him take that, but you do kind of have to guard him out there because he will take and make the open ones. Is my point. So yeah. I'm adding to your context there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player, but I don't know that he's a winning player. I guess that's kind of where I'm at, and he's been a winning player on this streak, and that's part of the reason Kansas State has been as good as they have recently. But I've never watched Coleman Hawkins and came away like thoroughly impressed on his like impact necessarily on the game. Maybe I'm eating my words tomorrow night, Kevin. Who knows? But
maybe, hopefully,
but
not.
I think Kansas. I think for Kansas State, I think Coleman Hawkins is maybe the X factor for their team, because I think that a lot of their other players are maybe a little bit more steady.
I'll say that I haven't really thought about. I didn't really think about this coming into our show today. We didn't really do like an X factor, brainstorming situation. But you bring it up, right? I almost think that a player like Hausen, Hausen could be the guy for K-State that maybe, gets slept on, and because he's their best 3-point shooter. Yeah. He's a consistent 3-point shooter, and I believe, he leads the conference in 3-point percentage, also leads in 3-point attempts. So he's not only his highest percent guy, he's the highest volume guy as well.
He's hitting higher percent than McMillan.
Yeah, last time I checked this morning. In the Big
Wasn't
12.
McMillan shooting like damn near 50% from?
He was.
How much did that fall off of a cliff?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. But,
yeah, he's at 44% now.
But yeah, no, I think Hausen could be someone who kind of gives Arizona's wings a challenge from a spacing perspective. Mm-hmm. I also think David Gasson. I was watching his tape this morning, Damon.
Yeah,
he can really do some good stuff out there. He had a turnaround. Very long too, almost a 3, like a step back 3 with the clock expiring, like a shot clock expiring, wet. He's getting down to the rim with aggressiveness. He's a 6'9" guy, I believe. He's big, not too big, like not Tobe Awaka size with muscle mass and everything.
From the Netherlands, feels like maybe he should be on our team.
I know, big dude, physical guy, skilled guy. So I think when you look at Kansas State. And I keep coming back to this mental idea I'm having that they're kind of just the store brand version of Arizona because they have 5 players averaging 10 plus points per game, Damon. They are a very spread it out production wise kind of team, and when you look at their last winning streak here, only Coleman Hawkins and Max Jones have reached double figures in each game. Right, this is a team that gets it done because everyone is contributing at the same time.
Yeah.
For example, Doug McDaniel, 15 points against West Virginia, 20 at Iowa State. Brendan Hausen, 18 against Oklahoma State, and Gasson, 22 points against Arizona State, 20 against Kansas. Oh yeah, and he leads the conference in field goal percent. So I think like this is a great value version of the Arizona Wildcats.
They got
right?
a lot of hands on deck. It feels like they're semi deep. It's not really. It's very similar to Arizona in the light of like
they can kill you in different ways.
There's not really a clear cut number one player. I mean, I think if you watched every Arizona game this season, I think you'd come away and say Jaden Bradley's been the MVP of this team, no question about it. But he's doing that in a way where he's scoring like 11, 12 points a game, and he's just so steady every single game. He brings it every night. So it's not in a way of like he's just dominating. You know what I mean? It's in a way that he's so consistent. But it feels like Arizona can hit you from so many angles, and Kansas State is semi-similar in that way where even if Coleman Hawkins doesn't have it, that doesn't mean that they're cooked because they got three other dudes who average double figures, you know? So, I mean, it'll be interesting in that regard. I think it's a good matchup in terms of depth on depth in that way. How does Arizona fare against a team that has similar depth to them? Because typically Arizona's been going up against teams that they're way more deep than, you know? And part of that is that bench unit, Kevin. I don't have it in front of me right now, but how is Kansas State's bench?
You read my mind, brother. I was just gonna say, I was doing some research, and there was a Kansas State beat reporter that I was reading up on. I forget his name, and I apologize, but he was mentioning how Jerome Tang, since conference play has gotten better for Kansas State, has been shrinking the lineup a little bit, minutes wise. He's been shrinking the bench, trying to get his best guys out there for the majority of the game. Right. I saw C.J. Jones, guy coming off the bench for them is definitely pretty much their entire bench, Damon. He's the only guy averaging, double figure minutes, I believe, over this winning streak off the bench. So the starting lineup for Kansas State is incredibly well-rounded, but I don't think they're as deep as Arizona. And I think that's gonna play a big factor in this game. Because if you can have KJ Lewis coming off the bench, Carter Bryant, well, I guess he'll be starting because, Trey Townsend, unfortunately, concussed. I don't know if he's officially out tomorrow night. I'm assuming he'd be out tomorrow night. But either way, right, Arizona's bench unit is deeper than Kansas State's bench unit, in my opinion. You look at what C.J. Jones can do just from an overall perspective. He's a decent player. He's from East St. Louis, though. Shout out. That's an Illinois. It's Illinois, but it is East St. Louis. So, I'll take those.
We still rep.
Yeah, I'll rep that. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this game because I think that it's going to be a challenge more so than I anticipated. You brought up earlier how I was kind of writing them off earlier in the year, but Damon, that's because they're 1-6 in the damn conference. But now I'm looking at this team kind of, I hate to keep doing this, but the same way that I felt about Arizona earlier about how, okay, I don't think they got it. I don't know if they can, turn this around. All of a sudden they turn it around. And now my framing on what the team can do has totally flipped. And I feel the same way about Kansas State, but to a lesser extent, because I still think they're going to be struggling to find their way into the tournament. Partially because of the lack of depth, like you spoke to. So
I mean, it'll be tough because that non-conference, like we talked about it with Arizona very briefly, right? Because then Arizona started reeling off wins, and now they're comfortably going to make the tournament. But like there was a scare for a second there, like how good does Arizona have to be in the Big 12 to make the tournament? Because if they go 500 in the Big 12, that's probably not good enough. And Kansas State's kind of in a similar boat there where they went about 500 in non-conference. If they go 500 in conference, I'm not sure that that's enough for them to make the tournament there. They probably have to be about 2 games above 500 to make the tournament, I'd say, in conference. So, and have a good end to the season, which, would also kind of come with that. So they got a shot to like be in postseason play, but, I do think that, they share similarities with Arizona in a lot of regards, but they're just kind of like the one step below version. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how those good on good matchups play out in that regard. But as you mentioned, like Arizona's bench unit is like going to be the driving factor of Arizona winning almost every basketball game against a good opponent, because that's where the advantage lies. Your starters in large part, like no one's dominating. So like a lot of times you're going to be, if you're playing a good team, you're kind of going to be mano y mano. It's the difference that KJ Lewis, Carter Bryant, and Henri Veesaar are going to make coming off the bench and providing starter caliber minutes for you. Because not a lot of teams have an 8-man rotation of starter caliber players. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that bench unit is going to be huge, as it always is. And I mean, I'm definitely pumped up about the game, Kevin. It's another one where it's just like every one of these Big 12 games is a damn tournament game. It's so awesome. Fun, man. Like there's been like, there was that 2-game stretch, right, where they played Colorado and Oklahoma State, where it was just like this is kind of boring. Like, I'm not really juiced for this game at all. Even when those games were close, I was sitting there like, Arizona should pull away. They will pull away. If they don't, it's really bad. Outside of that, every single game is like, we got a big one coming up at BYU. Tough place to play. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's like kind of one of the mid-tier games on the schedule. Like, it's just awesome. I love the Big 12.
I love the Big 12. And if you love this show, make sure to continue watching if you're with our streaming partners over on gophnx.com. Me and Damon are going to keep breaking it down here for the rest of the show. But, Damon, I was going to bring up, it's another great road environment as well, right? Anytime you're going into a place that's been nicknamed the Octagon of Doom. The Octagon of Doom is nasty. That's a very cool name. I'm not going to lie. I will say it's way better than Bramlage Coliseum, which is a little bit bookish, kind of just run of the mill. But the Octagon of Doom is really threatening.
I know it's like it's very clear what comparison I'm making, but it's very Indiana Jones vibes. Temple of Doom. Like, that's, what I mean? It's pretty sick.
It is. It can get loud in there too.
Did you miss my joke I threw in there? I was talking over you, so I understood.
The Tempe one?
Yeah.
I did hear it. I didn't internalize it, but I heard it.
Not even crack a smile? I mean,
no, that's what I was saying. I heard it, but it didn't enter the brain.
You were like, another raucous road environment, and I was like, everywhere but Tempe in this conference, brother.
Pretty much, honestly.
No, that's a genuine fact.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. Even I guess Oklahoma State was pretty empty, but
yeah,
I mean, it's on
but
par.
If they were good, they'd be going crazy.
Yeah, on par. But yeah, no, I think, the road environment, I think, will play a factor in this.
Yeah,
I think
BYU, it looked nuts in there.
It looked nuts in BYU as well.
I didn't have sound on. We talked about on the post game show, I was in a bar, drunkenly watching it on Bourbon Street, but doing some networking for the guys here. But I literally could not watch or hear the sound, and it still looked like it was like shaking in there at times. Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah, so I think Arizona, again, like I feel like I'm going to end up saying this about a bunch of teams in the Big 12 over the years, but it's going to be another game where you're going to have to put an emphasis on starting early and keeping the crowd out of it early and trying to build your lead as fast as you can, because they're going to punch back. K-State is going to punch back. This is a team that doesn't give up. You know what I mean? They really don't. Any team that starts 1-6 in conference and then rips off 5 in a row against 3 ranked teams involved in that 5-game win streak, you're facing some dogs. Doug McDaniel, very good player, very crafty player. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough to guard him on the defensive side. Vice versa, though, you should be able to take advantage of Doug McDaniel, his lack of size on the other end, especially because Arizona's guards are so physical. They're so big.
And Jaden Bradley is like, even though he's like, 6'2"?
He's so physical,
It feels like he's like 6'5", especially the way he rises to the rim, which, like, I know he's gotten a lot more playing time this year. I know he had some dunks last year, but Kevin, like, this year, those dunks feel like an entirely different beast than they did last year. I don't know what it is, but like when he flies to the rim, I'm like, oh my God, that's my point guard.
It must be the shoes. Because last year I felt the same way. I felt like some of his dunks were mostly like grazers.
Yeah.
You go up, kind of get it in there, and then the bench would be like, oh, he dunked that.
He's like tomahawking.
Yeah, now he's confident with it.
And you're like, oh my God, that's my point guard, and he's in college, and he's throwing down dunks like that. Like, you don't see that very often at the college level. Even some of the better point guards Arizona's had, when you think about them, are like, in recent memory, TJ McConnell, like he's not dunking it. You had highly recruited, but Nico Mannion, like he's not dunking it at all. You have Jason Gardner, so like super short, never dunking. Mike Bibby's not dunking. Damon Stoudemire's not dunking. Like the better point guards in this program's history are not like displaying like huge amounts of athleticism like Jaden Bradley is. So it's kind of like a change of pace in that regard. From a point guard position at point guard, Kevin, where it's a little bit of a stray off of what you maybe have become accustomed to seeing. But yeah, it's incredibly impressive to watch because there's been athletic point guards, especially like under Sean Miller and stuff, but a lot of those guys weren't as good, like a Josiah Turner. Like that dude was not, he was athletic as hell, NBA athleticism, but unserious and not a good basketball player. So it's like, this is like the first time where we've kind of culminated that, I feel like. With athleticism we haven't seen at this program from that spot in a very, very long time.
I think, excuse me, I think you're probably going to see a lot more of this as we have more years in the Big 12.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be a big point of emphasis for Tommy, because I think you can see it with this team. Like he clearly recruited based off of what he thought would fit with Big 12 basketball. Guy like Trey Townsend, maybe we made a mistake there, and it's not,
no,
it's
but
not so great.
I disagree, because if we're within this context, right, we're talking about making a Big 12 basketball team. You need a guy like Trey Townsend, right? No, but we're talking about size and physicality, right? Trey
Townsend is a 6'6" power forward, and that's generous.
But he's strong. But he's really strong, right? If you look at some of the players that Tommy trusts him going up against, they're usually bigger guys.
I think,
for right or wrong, I think where Trey Townsend falls off is a skill issue and not a physicality issue. But what I was saying was, when Tommy's building this team, he's clearly, I think they talked about this on McHale Madness, he's clearly going away from finesse, or not away from, but trying to find the balance between finesse and physicality. We don't want Tabellises
right? anymore.
No, you need more physicality. Yeah. You need more, physical players that can every once in a while do the finesse thing, like a Tobe Awaka.
Yeah,
right?
Tabellis and Krisa, like, you guys stay on that side. We'll bring in guys like, Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis to be on this team. Like, KJ Lewis, that's one where it feels like he just had some foresight of, like, we're going to the Big 12, and this dude is like, has there ever been a more Big 12 basketball player? Could you imagine if KJ Lewis was at, like, Houston? Doesn't he feel like he looks like a Houston basketball player?
Oh, why are you making me think about this?
Kevin, one of those dudes who just, like, he could be like 28. Like,
Dude,
KJ Lewis.
I can't unsee it now.
Right?
Like, he's so Kelvin Sampson coded.
Yeah.
He really is.
Thank God.
Yeah, for real.
Tommy brought him home.
For our Lord and Savior Tommy Lloyd. But it's funny because you said he must have had some foresight to think that, we're going to be in the Big 12. I know you were saying that in jest, but also, like, you look at KJ Lewis play the game, you don't need no foresight. He can play in any conference. Like, he's one of those players.
But he's built for this conference in particular.
I agree. I do agree. But yeah, no, I'm excited for, honestly, the continuation of Tommy Lloyd's recruiting in the Big 12, and specifically his transfer portal recruiting. I'm really interested to see the kind of players he focuses on.
Because I think what he's done with transfers in large part since he took over, in my opinion, is kind of find role players with transfers. He hasn't been super big game hunting, I feel like.
No, yeah.
Even a guy like Jaden Bradley, which was probably his biggest transfer he's brought thus far, was brought in to be a bench guy. Well, right? He was brought in to spell Kylan Boswell, and then earned that spot over time because, Kylan Boswell is nowhere near the basketball player that Jaden Bradley is. But like, I think in large part, like, I mean, Ballo's a little bit different because he brought him from Gonzaga.
Yes.
But a lot of these transfers are like more like Del Orso style guys, where it's like, we need you shoot well. We need you to bring that to the table.
Yeah, sorry, I definitely was listening to your take you had to say, but I saw.
It's okay if you weren't.
I definitely was, but I saw Lost Highway in the chat say we have no post touches anymore without Trey in there. Tobe is working on it, but needs deep position. Still no jump hook really. And I think while there is some credence to the idea that Tobe Awaka still has room to grow, excuse me, once again, still has room to grow on the offensive side of the ball, because he definitely does. And without Trey Townsend, there are less paint touches, because he really does put an emphasis on making sure he touches the paint whenever he gets the ball, for better or worse, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's as big of a problem as maybe Lost Highway's remembering it to be, right? Because last game, Arizona almost doubled up Texas Tech in points in the paint. 48
well, that's the thing.
28.
I get to an extent what he's saying about post touches from our big men.
I do too.
But that's not the way that we want to play basketball this year. That's the way that we wanted to play when we had Ballo and Tabellis as the starting lineup, where the go-to move was, let them post up, throw it, give them deep post entries and see what they can do. Nowadays, I think it's more penetration is definitely the way that this team wants to play basketball. And that's spelled by the fact that KJ Lewis, Jaden Bradley, and Caleb Love can basically get to the rack any single time that they want to when they're on a basketball court, because all three of those dudes are so athletic and so fast off the dribble. So I think that that's where, like, when the big men are there to clean up, right? That's what Tobe and Henri have been doing so well recently. Offensive rebounds, when they do beat their man, maybe the big that is guarding them gets a little bit out of position because he has to contest. Now Henri Veesaar is coming over the top for a putback dunk.
A Henry hammer?
Yeah, and that's kind of been, I think, what the big men have been providing. And honestly, like, if it ain't broke, Kevin, don't fix it. Maybe it's not ideal. You don't have a guy that you can go to post move against, but I don't think that it's like a big issue for this team that concerns me really,
Yeah, and Lost Highway continues and says, I agreed. I think Tommy just wants some touches that way, at least, just to get some easy ones or a different look. And I totally agree with that.
You know Tommy loves post touches. Like, yeah,
it's a fundamental quality of a good offense in basketball is, did you touch the paint or not?
He's
doesn't have to be a paint shot, but did you touch the paint?
You could tell Tommy's a big proponent of like, oh, what's the most efficient shot somewhere at the rim? Throw it to our center down low. I just think that he knows that this team is not that type of team. Because I think if Krivos was not hurt, we would be doing that way more, Kevin. And I think we'd be worse off for it.
That's why, yeah.
I don't think that we'd be worse off because of Krivos, but I think that just the stylistic change for how this team is peaking right now and playing in the Big 12 conference, which is, I think, really conducive to our style as we currently speak. I think that that's just better because Krivos, is more of a kind of that post-up guy. And, I think ideally we probably have him mixing in and getting some of those post touches. But, we'll see more of that next year and how that kind of blends into one another. Yeah, no, and I also wanted to mention that what's been really effective for Arizona is getting their guards just below the free throw line. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've also made the same observation, but some of the times when they run that short pick and roll with Veesaar, right? He rolls hard, but then usually they just leave a space for the guard because they're so worried about Veesaar's roll because he's become an incredible roll man in the pick and roll, right? And we've seen a lot of open floaters for Caleb Love. Some of them go short or rim out, right? That's fine, whatever, but they're good looks. Same thing for Jaden Bradley. So I think the ability of Arizona's guards to get down in the paint just under the free throw line, find those floaters, find the kickouts to ADO, right? Or if it's an Awaka post touch, he's been finding guys open as well. So I do think that Arizona has done a good job of making sure they get points in the paint, make sure they get paint touches in the ways that they can and ways that make sense within the offense. But I do agree that I was making that face because I was like, wow, if Krivos did not get, unfortunately, injured, the play style would be so different. It would. And I hadn't really, obviously we've thought about that in terms of the way the lineups have been altered and changed. And I think separate from that is when I think about play style. But I hadn't really thought about how different this team would look stylistically with Krivos. Just that one guy. Yeah, just that one guy. It's huge. I think when you kind of put it into that perspective, it seems like is he the guy that changes the way that Arizona would play more than anybody getting hurt? Because I feel like any really other piece on the team, they're kind of doing the same thing. If Caleb Love was out, maybe Jaden Bradley. If I think then Caleb Love is the point guard, but which he has tons of experience doing. And I think you'd be short in your guard rotation for sure. Conrad would have to come off the bench and play, and that's hurting you defensively a lot. But I think that the main lineup, the main group, the closing group is going to continue to play. KJ Lewis is just shifting down. And then you have Carter Bryant in there, and you know what I mean? Like there's still a lot of run and gun athleticism on the floor in that. But I understand what you're saying. I think that's the biggest loss on the team. Yeah. No doubt across the board. I would agree with that. I'm just saying, I think stylistically, I think Krivos might be the biggest difference in terms of like being there versus not being there. I think this team's going to go. And what made me lean towards Jaden Bradley was, while yes, Caleb Love does have a lot of experience facilitating an offense. Yeah. I think the styles that they would like, they're just two different point guards. Like if Caleb Love is a point guard, right? Because he really is a shooting guard. Right, so if you put James Harden at the 1, you know what I mean. It's just a different experience than James Harden at the 2 playing off of somebody, right? I do think though that like we've seen a little bit of a different Caleb Love this year in terms of just like his team play, where I do think that like if he had to shift over to the 1 in this season, this like super senior season of his, I kind of think he'd like try to like really like focus in on passing. I feel like this current version of Caleb Love is going into the game being like, I'm getting 8 assists tonight. You know what I mean? You know, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if this is for sure like how I feel about it. I'm just kind of brainstorming here, Damon. What do you think? Do you think that Caleb Love's facilitation has been helped by the fact that he is playing more off ball than he would if he was the point guard? I think because he can focus in on making the right choice as opposed to running everything. I think it has more to do with his shot hasn't been falling for much of the season. So he knows that, and it's in the back of his mind a little bit. So he's looking to pass a little bit more. And I just, and it's clearly been working from a winning standpoint. So I think that that's just the combination of those things have just got him to be a little bit more focused on passing. And I'm sure that they probably told him when he went to the combine, Kevin, you got to get better at passing if you want to play at this level. They probably told him that.
Darn.
Because after last season, I'm sure that they're like, listen, man, you're a hooper. We know you can score, but like, what else do you provide for us? And I feel like that's why he's made a big emphasis on his defense and his playmaking this season, which I think has been huge for this team.
I totally agree with that assessment of it. I think that probably is what was the catalyst for him kind of expanding his game, because it does kind of seem like, and I've mentioned this before on the show, that when Tommy Lloyd brought Caleb Love in, it was hey, I'm going to make you a complete guard.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to expand your game. Hey, I want to make sure that people think you're more than just a shot maker, right? And I think me for sure, but maybe other fans feel the same way. I saw improvements in those areas for Caleb Love since he joined Arizona, but it wasn't until he went through that draft process and maybe got that reality check of like, okay, no, I really need to be a combo guard.
Yeah.
Like, I really need to do more.
Yeah.
And then he comes back, shots not falling, gets over that frustration, keeps fighting through it, finds ways to play. And I think you're right. I think that was the inciting incident for him expanding his game and really taking it seemingly, I'm not saying he wasn't before, but seemingly taking the facilitation part of the game much more seriously than he did before. Because those little short roll bounce passes, old Caleb Love is probably trying to lob that up a second too late. You know what I mean? But the short rolls.
That wraparound pass was
gosh.
disgusting.
Yeah,
man.
no, he's become an incredible passer. And it's been really impressive and one of the best surprises of the season.
Yeah, it really has been. And yeah, watching Caleb Love has been like, I know everybody he's the easy guy to rag on when Arizona's losing, or because that typically involves him missing a lot of shots and not playing well. But I really do find Caleb Love very easy to root for. And like, I find him this season, especially in conference play, I've found him extremely fun to watch. It's been like the way that he's, adding aspects to his game, I think has been really impressive. And it makes you want to root for a guy like that. But yeah, I got to get this 38.6% field goal percentage a little bit more under control there, Kevin.
Oh my God.
I'd love to see that get in like the 43% range by the end of the season. Would that like,
you would hope that it just reduces back to the mean, right? Like somewhere the numbers are going to even back out.
Yeah, if he can get to that like 43% range, I'd be pretty pumped about how his end of the season went. But yeah, we will see. Big T in the chat. I think Love has more confidence in his teammates now, which is making him a more complete player. He had 6 assists against Texas Tech, not to mention the lockdown defense. Freddie Martinez, this
is why I was laughing.
Being asked to play Doberman pincher defense. He won't score as much, fellas. I love it. Freddie.
That's
He's
hilarious.
Been a dog.
It's hilarious, the Doberman pincher thing. But Freddie's kind of right. That like we talk a lot about Caleb Love's shot not falling, and then by the other side of the coin, we talk about how much effort he's putting in other aspects of the game. And I think that's something that we should talk about, right? It's hard to play really active, involved defense and also be the shooter, right? Like it's just something that's hard to do. Like ADO, he's our shooter, but he doesn't have to play hard defense. I mean, he has to play hard, but he doesn't have to guard their best player or guard their second best player or guard their third best player. You know what I mean? And I think that our three trio of guards, Bradley, Love, and Lewis. Well, I guess Lewis is a wing, but you get my point with that.
He guards small.
Have been asked to guard usually our opponent's best players, and then also on the other end produce on offense. And so I think Freddie brings up a good point that Caleb Love has been a dog on defense, and that maybe we should expect a little less scoring because he's doing a little more in other areas.
No doubt about that. Joseph puts in here in the chat, got to get a PHNX coupon code for that Caleb Love NIL shop.
Hey.
I agree with you. Kevin, I mean, first off, let me just say some of those NIL shirts for Caleb Love are dope. If you look at Dennis Love was posting some of them after he hit that half-court buzzer beater against Iowa State. Check out the NIL stuff for Caleb Love because, I mean, we love to support our guys. And that one of him shooting the shot, Kevin, unbelievable. But I will say, does feel like a little bit of a miss that there's not like a Kevin 314 coupon code just from being from the Lou. The Lou 314 coupon code for my guy Kevin over here, just because like, does anyone rep Caleb Love in St. Louis harder than this guy? Like where's his
family?
code?
Maybe his family. But I do think that
I'm not sure.
I'm one of the biggest Caleb Love like defenders in the fan base probably. But I was gonna say like straight up. Let me cook here real quick, Damon. My guy. Dennis Love.
Denny.
I won't go that far, but Dennis Love.
My dad's name is Dennis.
That's fire. That's actually very cool. See, we're already making connections. You, us, and you.
Just saying.
We need that code. We're trying to show some love. We're trying to drive some traffic. You know what I'm saying? Let us get a code. Maybe a signed shoe, but I'm not going to go too far. I'm not going to go too far.
Maybe an interview.
Forget the shoe. Give us an interview. You know what I mean?
You leave the shoe. We'll take the interview.
Leave the shoe. Leave it to wear when he comes into the studio and talks to us, you know? Yeah. But no, in all reality, Dennis, we appreciate you for loaning us your son here in Arizona. And honestly, I do want to genuinely give him a shout out, all jokes aside, because he is so active on social media. And I feel like parents of athletes on social media.
But not in like a nasty way.
Exactly
not in a nasty way at all. He's very overtly positive. Like you never see like a lot of times with if you told me a player in the archetype of Caleb Love,
exactly where I was going.
If you told me his dad was going to be very active, vocal person, I would tell you that's probably a problem. But Dennis Love is not doing it in any negative sort of light at all. I don't remember 1 ounce of negative attention that came our way because of anything that Dennis Love said. It's really just like my boy's gonna bounce back tonight. Like everybody watch. Like if he has a bad game.
It's just showing love.
It's more like hand up, like, yeah, he had a bad game last game, and he's about to like...
And he knows it, and he's going to keep working, and he's going to keep shooting,
and then he hits
we're not going to give up.
Half-court buzzer beater to send us to OT to win the game. So,
but yeah, no, you
sorry for cutting you off. You can go.
You went exactly where I was going to go with that, right? If you had told me that there was a player on this team's father who was super active on social media, posting before and after every game, in the stadium after every game, I'm thinking, oh boy, we got a LeVar Ball on our hands. You know what I'm saying? We got a problem on our hands. But Dennis Love is a great part of the Arizona fan base, Damon, and we're happy to have the Caleb Love family in Tucson. And yeah, I'm appreciative, but I'm looking forward to seeing Dennis Love's son ball out tomorrow night.
We need as much of that St. Louis connection as we possibly can on campus in Tucson, Kevin.
I've been thinking about this.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I've been thinking about this, Damon. Courtney Ramey, right? Caleb Love.
Yep.
Who's going to continue the bloodline?
Kevin Thomas.
I can't hoop. I can't do that. Not at that level. What are we talking about? Maybe I got to hit the recruiting streets. Like maybe I'm taking a trip back to St. Louis here in about a week.
When you are in St. Louis, Kevin, I think you need to be going to high school gyms, scouting.
Yeah. Like, hey, coach, Arizona, we love a nice, tough St. Louisan. A gritty player, someone that really plays with force. We need that.
Gritty boys.
The gritty boys, man. It can't be the gritty boys without somebody from St. Louis. Don't make no sense.
That's a damn fact, Kevin. Another damn fact. Hit this like button because Kevin can't sleep at night if you don't. But yes, we appreciate everybody in this chat. Chat very active. Family people are calling them. As I always say, Kevin, they're like family to us. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. If you have not done so already. Follow at PHNX_Wildcats on Twitter. Follow Kevin at Kevo Post. That's KEVOPOSTS. Follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And we're going to be live for a post-game edition, Arizona versus Kansas State tomorrow night for the number 13 Arizona Wildcats. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great show, Kevin. I thought we were going to get out of here at an hour flat, and then we just love talking to the people, man.
We just love the game.
You can't. That's what we were leaving Radio Row, and we had been there for a good 10 hours, and Shane's like making me check my phone and stuff, and he's like, how you feeling? And I'm like, he's like recording me for the vlog, and if you haven't already, check out the vlogs that PHNX Cardinals posted from Super Bowl. Shane worked really hard on them, did 3 of them. They're all fantastic behind the scenes type of looks at what we were doing, and like lots of famous people on camera and stuff, really fun. But in the vlog, I just said Shane, I just want to crush more content. That's honestly, I wish I could.
Right?
I wish it wasn't dying down, so I could just get back in there and just crush more content. That's me and Kevin right now. Just if you let us, we'd talk for another 3 hours, Kevin. That's just how much we love the game.
We would end up debating something random, like who's the greatest, MAC running back to never win a Super Bowl, something crazy stupid like that.
That's how much we love the game, man. But yeah, make sure that you guys tune in for our post-game show tomorrow night. We're going to be have you locked and loaded for Kansas State versus Arizona.
Wait, before we get out of here, score prediction. We got to give a prediction. We did the breakdown, but we didn't actually make a cemented prediction. I'll let you cook. I will let you cook. I'll go first since I asked the question. I don't want to put you too much on the spot. I will give people some context, right? Arizona has scored 81 plus in 5 of their last 6 matchups. Now, they have also, I want to mention, allowed 72 to 78 points outside of Colorado, where they only allowed 73 in those same last 5 games, right? So I'm honestly...
Play really fast-paced.
My gut is telling me this is like Arizona... Let me write it down so I can see if it looks good. Arizona 83 to Kansas State... No, I can't do 83. Arizona 84 to Kansas State 71. That feels right.
Wow.
That feels really good.
13-point dub. Take the spread.
Freddie's saying 15. What you got to say to Freddie?
I mean, Freddie's not my co-host on the show, but I respect Freddie's opinion as well. I was just responding to the conversation we were having.
And no, I'm saying we should all be hammering this. We should all be hammering this Arizona spread.
I hope you guys are right. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. I'll still go Arizona dub, but I'm going to go with like 80 to 76.
I kind of like that. I do kind of like that. I like the low 80. I like that you think, it's a road game, probably not going to get too high scoring. I like that. I do like that.
Yeah, I think free throws at the end there. Cook it up. I love it. 80 to 76. If you love it, like and subscribe to this channel, like this video. Like I said, does us wonders. And until next time on the AZ Wildcats podcast, bear down.
And go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.